Elara lived in a house woven from starlight and silence, perched atop the highest peak of the Whisperwind Mountains. It wasn't a house in the usual sense, with walls of brick or wood, but a spiraling tower of polished obsidian and moonstone, known to all as the Starlight Spire. Its facets caught the first blush of dawn and the deepest indigo of twilight, glittering like a forgotten jewel against the vast canvas of the sky. Her grandmother, Lyra, was a constellation weaver, a guardian of the celestial tapestry, and it was her magic that kept the spire gleaming and humming with a soft resonant song. Lyra's fingers were nimble as starlight itself, forever tracing patterns in the air, mending faded nebulae, or guiding lost comets back to their orbits with a gentle whisper. Elara often watched her, a small shadow in the vast star-dusted observatory that crowned their home. Every night as the world below settled into its dreaming, Elara would don her thick woolly slippers and pad softly to the grand observatory. The air up there was always cool and smelled of ancient parchment, distant starlight, and the faint, sweet scent of night-blooming jasmine that drifted up from the hidden gardens clinging to the spire's lower ledges. The dome of the observatory was not glass, but a shimmering field of pure magic, through which the cosmos blazed in breathtaking clarity. Thousands upon thousands of stars, each a pinprick of distant sun, spun in lazy, grand dances. Nebulae bloomed like celestial flowers, painting the void with impossible colors, emerald, amethyst, and a deep, shimmering gold. Galaxies, like colossal pinwheels of light, spiraled in quiet majesty, so far away they seemed to be mere smudges on the fabric of time itself. Elara didn't just see the stars, she listened to them. Not with her ears, not truly, but with a quiet corner of her heart, a place that resonated with the silent song of the cosmos. Most people only saw light, but Elara heard the low hum of ancient suns, the soft thrum of nebulae breathing, and the gentle, almost imperceptible ping of a new star being born in a distant corner of the universe. Her favorite was a particular star, small and shy, nestled in the arm of the great constellation known as the Serpent's Coil. It wasn't the brightest, nor the most vibrant. In fact, it was rather faint, a barely there flicker, but it sang a melody unlike any other. It was a tune of quiet longing, of ancient memory, a song that tugged at something deep within Elara's own soul. She called it the Whispering Star. One evening as Elara lay on her favorite cushion, wrapped in a blanket woven with threads of twilight, she focused on the Whispering Star. Tonight, its song was different. There was a new note, a faint tremor, like a harp string plucked too hard, reverberating with a subtle disquiet. Elara frowned, her small brow furrowing. She reached out with her mind, trying to soothe the distant tremor, but it persisted, a tiny, unsettling discord in the vast cosmic symphony. "Is something wrong with the Whispering Star, grandmother?" Elara asked, her voice a soft murmur in the quiet vastness of the observatory. Lyra, who had been meticulously polishing a particularly stubborn patch of cosmic dust from the tail of a passing comet, turned slowly. Her eyes, the color of deep space, held galaxies within their depths. Her hair, a cascade of silver and moonlight, was usually neatly braided, but tonight a few stray strands floated around her face like tiny errant comets. "Ah, my starlight," Lyra said, her voice like the rustle of ancient leaves. "You feel it too, then?" She walked over to Elara, her steps silent on the polished obsidian floor, and sat beside her, gathering the girl into a warm embrace. Lyra's scent was comforting, a mix of lavender, old books, and the crisp, clean tang of high mountain air. "It sings of trouble," Elara whispered, burying her face into her grandmother's soft, woolly shawl. "A sad, worried song." Lyra sighed, a sound that seemed to carry the weight of countless ages. She looked up at the Whispering Star, her gaze piercing through the magical dome. "That star, my dear Elara, is no ordinary star. It is a memory keeper, a fragment of the first light, entrusted with guarding a truth almost as old as the universe itself." Elara looked up, her blue eyes wide with wonder and a hint of trepidation. "The first light? What truth?" Lyra stroked Elara's hair. "Long, long ago, before the mountains rose and the ocean sang, when the world was still a swirling mist of possibility, the first light bloomed. From its heart all magic was born, and all life. But as the world took shape, the first light, too vast and powerful to remain whole, shattered into countless fragments. Most became the stars we see. Others became the magic that flows through the earth, the wind, and the spirits of all living things. Lyra paused, her gaze distant, as if seeing through the layers of time. It became what the ancient texts call the Obsidian heart. Elara shivered, a thrill of both fear and excitement running down her spine. The name sounded so grand, so mysterious. The Obsidian heart? Is it dark? Lyra smiled, a gentle knowing curve of her lips. Not dark, my little starlight, but deep. Like the deepest part of the ocean, or the heart of a mountain, it is a reservoir of primordial magic, a silent pulse that keeps the balance of all things in our world. It ensures the rivers flow, the forests grow, and the stars continue their dance. For centuries, its presence was a constant, a quiet hum beneath the world's surface. What happened to it? Elara asked, leaning closer, captivated by her grandmother's storytelling. Lyra had a way of weaving tales that made the very air shimmer with forgotten magic. It was lost, Lyra said, her voice dropping to a near whisper. Not lost by accident, but hidden, deliberately. The first keepers, those who understood its power, feared that mortals, with their fleeting desires and their hunger for power, would seek to control it. So they wove a veil of forgetting around it, concealing its location, making its very existence a mere legend, a whisper on the wind. Over time the world forgot it entirely, and the Obsidian heart became a... But if it's lost, Elara mused, how does it still keep the balance? Ah, that is the magic of it, Lyra explained. Even hidden, its ancient pulse resonated. It drew strength from the starlight, from the earth, from the dreams of all living things. And the whispering star, your little friend, was bound to it. It was tasked with watching over the Obsidian heart's slumber, to sing to it, to keep its memory alive in the cosmos, even if it faded from mortal minds. Elara's eyes darted to the faint, trembling star. So, if the whispering star is worried, it means something is happening to the Obsidian heart? Lyra nodded slowly, her expression grave. For generations the song of the whispering star has been a steady, gentle lullaby. But lately I have felt it too. A subtle change. A weakening in the cosmic weave. And tonight your sensitive heart has confirmed it. The whispering star's song is one of distress, of fading strength. It means the Obsidian heart is stirring, and not in a peaceful slumber, but perhaps in pain or in peril. Elara felt a knot of dread tighten in her stomach. What kind of peril? Could someone have found it? Perhaps, Lyra said, her gaze fixed on the distant star. Or perhaps its own ancient magic is beginning to fray. The world has changed so much since the first keepers hid it. The balance has shifted, new magics have emerged, and old ones have dwindled. The Obsidian heart, like all things, might be affected by these changes. A sudden sharp flicker pulsed from the whispering star like a gasp of pain. It dimmed noticeably for a moment, then struggled back to its previous faint glow, its song now laced with a desperate urgency. Lyra gasped. This is not good. The link is weakening. If the Obsidian heart's power truly falters, the balance of our world, it could unravel. The very fabric of magic could tear. Elara imagined the beautiful, vibrant world she knew, the singing rivers and the dreaming mountains, suddenly losing their magic, fading to dull, lifeless things. The thought sent a chill through her. What can we do, grandmother? Can we help it? Lyra turned to Elara, her eyes shining with a strange, fierce light. That, my dear starlight, is the question that has plagued me. For centuries, the keepers of the spire have guarded the knowledge of the Obsidian heart, but never its location. The veil woven by the first keepers was absolute. No one has ever been able to pierce it, to find the heart. Until now, perhaps. She reached out and gently touched Elara's forehead, right between her eyes. A warmth spread through Elara's mind, a familiar sensation, like a soft, glowing ember. You, Elara, are different. You hear the stars. You feel their song. You are tied to the whispering star in a way no other has been in generations. That connection, that unique resonance, might be the key. It might be the very thread that can lead us through the veil of forgetting, to the Obsidian heart itself. Elara felt a thrill, a mix of fear and exhilaration. Her heart beat a little faster. Me, but I'm just... Me. I don't know how to find a lost heart of magic. You have courage, and a listening heart, Lyra said, her voice firm yet gentle. And that is often more powerful than any spell or ancient knowledge. The Whispering Star chose you, Elara, and it cries out to you now. It is calling for help, not for itself, but for the life it guards, the Obsidian heart. Its song is a summons, a guide. It will show you the way, though the path will be long and full of unknowns. Lyra stood up, her silhouette framed against the cosmic backdrop. She walked to a large ancient map, etched into the obsidian floor, a map that depicted not just continents and oceans, but also the ley lines of magic, the hidden currents of power that coursed beneath the world. Her finger traced a path, moving from the Whisperwind Mountains, across shimmering deserts, through dense enchanted forests, and over vast silver seas. The Obsidian Heart is rumored to lie in a place touched by all four elements, a nexus point where earth, air, fire, and water meet in ancient harmony, Lyra murmured, more to herself than to Elara. A place of profound magic, hidden from time. The legends speak of a forgotten valley, deep within the treacherous Shadowglen peaks, protected by illusions and ancient wards. Elara's gaze followed her grandmother's finger. The Shadowglen peaks were a distant, formidable mountain range, shrouded in perpetual mist and whispered legends. No one from the Whisperwind Mountains had ventured there in living memory. It will be a journey, Elara, Lyra continued, her voice gaining a renewed strength. A journey into the heart of our world, and perhaps into the heart of yourself. But you will not be alone. I will guide you with what knowledge I possess, and the Whispering Star will light your path, even if only with its faint, trembling song. Elara looked from the ancient map to the worried flicker of the Whispering Star. The fear was still there, a small, cold knot in her stomach, but it was now overshadowed by a growing sense of purpose, a quiet resolve. She wasn't just a girl listening to stars anymore. She was a girl who might have to save them. Lyra knelt beside her again, taking both of Elara's small hands in her own. Her touch was warm, reassuring. It is late, my starlight. The night is deep, and the stars will continue their vigil. Rest now. Tomorrow, we will begin to prepare. Tomorrow, the Whispering Star will truly begin to sing its guidance, and we will listen with all our hearts. Elara nodded, her mind swirling with images of ancient hearts, fading stars, and journeys to distant, forgotten lands. As Lyra tucked her into bed, the soft, magical glow of the observatory dimmed, and the stars outside seemed to twinkle with a newfound intensity, as if they too were listening, waiting for the adventure that was about to unfold. The morning light, usually a soft pearly glow filtered through the observatory's domed glass, seemed imbued with a new purpose. It traced patterns across the aged maps and arcane instruments, highlighting the dust motes dancing in the air like tiny, hopeful stars. Elara woke with a jolt of excitement, a feeling akin to the first warm breath of spring after a long winter. The adventure wasn't just a story now. It was a tangible presence, waiting just beyond the threshold of her dreams. She found Lyra already awake, humming a low, tuneful melody as she prepared a simple breakfast of spiced oatcakes and warm berry tea. The scent of cinnamon and wild fruits mingled with the faint metallic tang of starlight that always seemed to cling to Lyra's clothes. "Good morning, little star-dancer," Lyra greeted, her eyes twinkling. "Slept well. The stars certainly had much to discuss last night." Elara nodded, taking a seat at the small, sturdy table. "I dreamt of ancient cities, half hidden by shimmering mist, and stars that sang with voices like wind chimes." Lyra smiled, placing a steaming mug before her. "A promising start indeed. The journey often begins in the mind, long before the feet touch distant soil." She gestured towards the large circular table in the center of the observatory, which was now cleared of its usual observational equipment, and instead laden with scrolls, leather-bound books, and intricate star charts. "Today, we begin by listening, truly listening, to what the Whispering Star has to say." After breakfast, they moved to the table. Elara's eyes widened at the sheer volume of forgotten knowledge. There were maps that seemed to shift and shimmer, their lines tracing not just mountains and rivers, but ley lines and ethereal currents. Books with covers made of polished moonstone or woven starlight fabric lay open, their pages filled with elegant, spiraling script that pulsed with a faint inner light. "These are the chronicles of the Starweavers," Lyra explained, gently unfurling a particularly delicate scroll that depicted a cosmic tapestry. Long ago, before the Great Sundering, the world was woven more tightly with the cosmos. Magic flowed freely, connecting everything: the whisper of a breeze, the growth of a seed, the distant twinkle of a star. This connection was maintained and strengthened by what we call the ethereal hearts. Elara leaned closer, tracing a finger over a glowing symbol on the scroll. What are the ethereal hearts? They are not hearts of flesh and blood, child, but immense concentrations of primal magic, like well springs of pure cosmic energy. Imagine them as the pulse points of the world, anchoring the flow of magic, ensuring the harmony between our realm and the star-spun heavens. There were once many, scattered across the greatest lands, each humming with a unique resonance, contributing to the grand song of the cosmos. Lyra's voice grew soft, almost reverent. But over millennia, as civilizations rose and fell, as knowledge was lost or hoarded, many of these hearts were forgotten, neglected, or became inaccessible. Without their constant tending, without the listening ears and singing voices of the star weavers, their song began to falter. And that's why the stars are fading? Elara asked, a knot forming in her stomach. Precisely. The fading stars are a symptom, not the cause. They are a reflection of the weakening of the ethereal hearts. When these anchors of cosmic harmony dim, the flow of magic across the universe becomes dissonant, like an instrument falling out of tune. The veil between worlds thins in unwanted places, ancient wards that protect our reality weaken, and the very fabric of existence begins to fray. Slowly, imperceptibly. The whispering star, being known of the oldest cosmic listeners, fell. Lyra picked up a small, smooth stone that hummed faintly in her palm. Our task, Elara, is to find these forgotten hearts, to rekindle their song, or at least to understand why they have fallen silent, and what can be done to restore them. The whispering star will guide us to the first. It will show us the path to the places where the silence is deepest, where the song needs our voices the most. For hours, they immersed themselves in the ancient lore. Elar, with Lyra's patient guidance, learned to decipher some of the simpler star charts, recognizing constellations that were once mighty protectors, now mere pinpricks of light. She learned about the different magical currents that crisscross the world, like invisible rivers, and how the ethereal hearts were their source. She discovered tales of legendary star weavers who could mend broken constellations with a song, or draw starlight into their hands to heal the land. The sheer scale of the task, the ancientness of the problem, was overwhelming, yet thrilling. As the sun began its descent, painting the observatory with hues of molten gold and rose, Lyra announced, "It is time." The whispering star prefers the twilight, when its voice can blend with the fading light and the emerging darkness, speaking to both worlds at once. She led Elara to a central platform, where a large, intricately carved crystal array stood. It was a swirling vortex of clear, multifaceted crystals, each one catching and refracting the dimming light, creating a kaleidoscope of colors on the walls. In the very center, on a velvet cushion, lay a perfectly spherical obsidian orb, dull and lifeless under normal light. Lyra placed her hands on either side of the orb, and Elara mimicked her, feeling a cool, smooth surface against her palms. "Close your eyes, Elara," Lyra instructed, her voice a low murmur. "Empty your mind of all thoughts, all expectations. Just listen. Feel the quiet hum of the world, and then listen deeper, for the hum beyond the world." Elara closed her eyes, taking a deep breath. She focused on the feeling of the smooth orb, the warmth of Lyra's hands beside hers. At first, there was only the familiar quiet of the observatory, the distant chirp of early evening birds. Then a faint vibration began in the obsidian orb, growing stronger, humming through her hands and up her arms. It wasn't a sound she heard with her ears, but a resonance she felt deep within her chest, like a gentle, insistent heartbeat. The crystal array around them began to respond. Each facet caught the invisible energy, glowing with an internal light. The air thickened, shimmering with unseen forces. Lyra began to hum, a wordless melody that seemed to rise and fall with the rhythm of the obsidian orb's pulse. Elara joined in, her voice hesitant at first, then gaining confidence as she felt the melody resonate with the core of her being. As their combined voices filled the dome, the obsidian orb began to change. Tiny, incandescent pinpricks of light appeared on its surface, swirling and dancing, like a miniature galaxy captured within. A low, ethereal whisper, so subtle it was almost imperceptible, seemed to emanate from the orb, weaving itself into Lyra's hum. Elara felt a peculiar sensation, as if her mind were expanding, reaching out beyond the confines of the observatory, beyond the world itself, into the vast, star-dusted expanse of the cosmos. Then a vision bloomed behind her closed eyelids. It was not a clear picture, but a feeling, a scent, a flash of color. She saw vast, rolling dunes of sand, shimmering with an impossible iridescent hue. Above them, a sky of twilight purple and deep indigo, where stars seemed to stretch infinitely. And beneath the sands, a faint, almost forgotten shimmer, like a city of glass buried alive. A sense of immense age of quiet sorrow permeated the vision. Lyra's voice cut through the ethereal experience, gentle but firm. "What do you see, child? What does the whispering star show you?" Elara struggled to articulate the swirling sensations. "Zant, so much sand, and light under the sand. A city perhaps, it feels lonely." Lyra hummed again, a note of understanding in her voice. The obsidian orb pulsed brighter, and the pinpricks of light on its surface coalesced into a single brilliant point, then stretched into a shimmering line, pointing directly towards a specific, previously unmarked spot on one of the ancient maps spread on the table. "The sunken spires of Eredor," Lyra murmured, her eyes now open, fixed on the map. "Daidai. A city of the Star Weavers buried beneath the shifting sands of the Whisperwind wastes for millennia. It was said to have been a place of unparalleled beauty, where the very spires were carved from crystallized starlight, and its ethereal heart pulsed with the purest resonance. Its disappearance was one of the first great signs of the Sundering, a silence that reverberated across the cosmos." The vision faded, leaving Elara with a profound sense of awe and a prickle of anticipation. This was it. Their first destination. "How do we get there?" Elara asked, her voice hushed. "The Whisperwind wastes? They're beyond the sunken peaks, aren't they? And those maps show no clear paths." Lyra smiled, a glint of adventure in her eyes. "Indeed, no ordinary path will take us to Eredor. For such a journey we require a vessel that can traverse both the terrestrial and the celestial, a craft attuned to the cosmic currents. We shall prepare the Star Sailors in." The Star Sailor wasn't a ship in the traditional sense, nor an airship. It was a marvel of ancient Starweaver engineering and magic, stored in a hidden annex beneath the observatory. Lyra led Elara down a winding spiral staircase, carved from dark, polished stone, that descended deep into the earth. The air grew cooler, carrying the scent of rich soil and ozone. At the bottom, a massive enchanted door, carved with constellations, swung open at Lyra's touch, revealing a cavernous chamber. There, bathed in the soft glow of embedded glow moss, rested the Star Sailor. It was a sleek, elegant vessel, about the size of a small carriage, crafted from a lustrous, iridescent wood that seemed to shimmer with its own internal light. Its hull was smooth, curving gracefully upwards to a pointed prow, and along its sides, delicate, crystalline fins extended like the wings of a dragonfly. Instead of sails, it had a central mast, topped with a complex array of focusing crystals, designed to capture and channel ambient starlight. There were no wheels, no visible means of propulsion, yet it exuded a silent power, a promise of effortless flight and swift traversal. "It is powered by the very starlight it gathers," Lyra explained, running a hand reverently over its smooth surface. "And by the resonance of a pure heart. It needs no winds or currents, only a destination and a purpose. It can glide silently over land, skim across water, or ascend into the upper currents of the sky, veiled from mundane sight by a glamour week." Over the next few days their preparations became a whirlwind of activity, blending practical necessities with magical enchantments. Elara helped Lyra gather supplies, dried fruits and nuts, concentrated essence of sunlight wafers for energy, and water purified by lunar magic. They packed warm cloaks woven with frost-repelling threads, sturdy boots enchanted for tireless travel, and small satchels filled with emergency healing salves and protective amulets. Lyra meticulously checked the Star Sailor, polishing its crystalline fins, adjusting the starlight focusing array, and recharging its internal energy cells with ancient incantations. She also gathered her own tools, a gnarled staff of ancient wood, topped with a glowing blue geode, a leather-bound tome filled with intricate spells and rituals, and a small, intricately carved compass that didn't point north, but hummed softly in the direction of the nearest magical anomaly. Elara's task wasn't just to assist but to learn. Lyra taught her how to recognize different magical currents in the air, how to sense the subtle shifts in the world around them, how to attune her own heart to the gentle hum of the star sailor's engines. She learned simple protective charms, practiced focusing her intent, and began to understand that magic wasn't just about grand gestures, but about deep connection and careful listening. One evening, as they were making final checks, Lyra handed Elara a small silver locket on a delicate chain. "This belonged to my grandmother, a powerful star weaver in her own right. It holds a fragment of the Whispering Star's essence. Wear it. It will help you hear its guidance more clearly, and offer a measure of protection when you most need it." Elara felt the cool metal against her skin, a comforting weight. The locket pulsed with a faint warmth, a steady gentle beat, like a miniature heart. It was a tangible link to the magic, to the adventure, to the history they were now a part of. "We must be prepared for anything," Lyra cautioned, her expression serious. "The Whisperwind Wastes are not merely a desert. They are a place where time and space can ripple, where illusions are as real as solid stone, and where ancient guardians, both benign and less so, might still linger. We travel not just to a distant land, but to a forgotten past, and the echoes of that past can be powerful." Elara nodded, her initial excitement now tempered with a healthy respect for the unknown. She felt a shiver of both fear and resolve. She wasn't just a child listening to stories anymore. She was an apprentice star weaver, about to embark on a quest to mend the cosmic song. The night before their departure, the observatory was quiet, save for the soft glow of the star sailor's ready lights. Lyra and Elara sat by the large dome window watching the stars. The Whispering Star, brighter now, seemed to pulse with a silent anticipation, its light a beacon of hope and challenge. "Are you ready, Elara?" Lyra asked, her voice soft. Elara looked at the stars, at the faint shimmer of the Milky Way, at the steady, hopeful glow of the Whispering Star. She thought of the ancient hearts, the fading song, the buried city of Eridor. She thought of the silver locket warming against her chest, and the hum of the star sailor waiting below. "Yes, Lyra," she said, a quiet strength in her voice. "I am ready." Lyra smiled, a warmth that seemed to chase away the chill of the night. "Then tomorrow, at dawn, we set forth." Tomorrow, the Whispering Star will truly begin to sing its guidance, and we will listen with all our hearts, and carry its song to the silent places of the world. Elara leaned her head against Lyra's shoulder, the vastness of the cosmos stretching out before them, a tapestry of shimmering possibilities. The adventure was about to begin, and she was ready to step into its boundless magic. The first rays of dawn, a faint blush of rose and gold, painted the eastern sky. A whisper of a breeze stirred through the leaves of the ancient oak that sheltered Lyra's cottage, carrying the scent of dew-kissed earth and awakening blossoms. Lyra, ever the early riser, was already gathering their provisions. A sturdy canvas satchel, woven with threads that shimmered faintly in the burgeoning light, held dried fruit, nuts, bread, and a small flask of cool spring water, infused with mint leaves. Elara, still half dreaming of starlit paths, watched as Lyra carefully packed a small, intricately carved wooden flute, a compass whose needles spun with a soft ethereal glow even without the sun, and a smooth, palm-sized stone that pulsed with a gentle inner warmth. "This," Lyra said, holding up the stone, its surface like polished moonstone, "is a fragment of the Whispering Star itself. It fell to earth long ago, a tiny shard of pure starlight. It will guide us, Elara, not with a path laid out, but with a feeling, a hum, a song in our hearts that tells us where the silence is deepest and where our music is needed most." Elara's heart fluttered with a mixture of awe and excitement. She reached out and touched the stone. It was cool to the touch at first, then warmed beneath her fingertips, a comforting presence. "It feels alive," she murmured. "It is," Lyra affirmed, fastening the satchel to her shoulder. "All things that sing are alive. And now, my little star listener, it's time to find our own song." They stepped out of the cottage as the sun crested the horizon, bathing the world in a soft, golden light. The air was crisp and fresh, humming with the promise of a new day. Lyra took Elara's hand, her grip firm and reassuring. They walked through a meadow still shimmering with dew, where wild flowers nodded their sleepy heads in the morning breeze. The path beneath their feet was not a grand road but a winding deer trail, barely visible, leading them deeper into the embrace of the world. Their journey began with the soft crunch of grass underfoot, the distant call of a cuckoo, and the gentle rustle of leaves as they passed beneath ancient trees. The whispering star's guidance wasn't a loud voice, but a subtle symphony. Sometimes it was a faint, shimmering dust that danced ahead of them, catching the sunlight and hinting at a turn in the path. Other times it was a specific tree, its bark glowing with a faint silver luminescence, urging them to pause and listen to the murmurs within its branches. Lyra, with her deep connection to the natural world, seemed to understand these silent cues instinctively, her eyes tracking the flight of a butterfly, or the way a tendril of mist curled around a moss-covered stone. Elara, in turn, found herself attuned to the deeper currents, the faint hum beneath the earth, the subtle shifts in the air that spoke of unseen presences. Their first true destination, hinted at by the growing warmth of the moonstone shard in Lyra's satchel, was the Whispering Woods. These weren't the quiet woods of deep slumber, but rather woods whose voices had become tangled and muted, their ancient melodies lost in a cacophony of worry and forgotten joy. As they approached, the vibrant greens of the forest canopy seemed to dim, and the birdsong, which had been so abundant, grew sparse and hesitant. The air grew heavy, not with malice, but with a profound sense of melancholy. "Listen, Elara," Lyra whispered, stopping at the edge of the woods. "Can you hear it?" Elara closed her eyes, focusing. At first, she heard only the wind, a mournful sigh through the branches. But then, beneath that, she caught it, a faint, discordant hum, like many instruments trying to play the same tune, but each slightly off-key. It was the sound of sadness, of unexpressed longing, of a beauty that had forgotten how to shine. The moonstone shard in Lyra's satchel pulsed, its warmth now a gentle thrum against Lyra's side, guiding them inward. They stepped into the Whispering Woods, and the change was immediate. The light, though filtering through the leaves, seemed to lose its golden warmth, becoming a muted, silvery gray. The trees, though magnificent and ancient, stood with a stooped posture, their branches drooping as if burdened by unseen sorrows. Lyra reached out, her fingers brushing against the rough bark of an oak. "These trees remember the old songs," she murmured, "but they've forgotten how to sing them." As they walked deeper, they encountered the forest's inhabitants. Squirrels scurried with a listless air, their chattering muted. Small, furry creatures with large, luminous eyes watched them from behind bushes, but without curiosity, only a wistful resignation. Elara saw a patch of wildflowers that should have been bursting with color, but instead their petals were faded, their heads bowed low. The silence here wasn't empty, it was full of unheard cries. The whispering star's guidance became more insistent. The moonstone shard now glowed with a soft inner light, illuminating the path ahead. It led them to a clearing, where a magnificent ancient willow tree stood, its long weeping branches trailing to the ground like a sorrowful veil. At its base, nestled amongst its roots, lay a small crystalline spring, its waters still and unmoving, reflecting the dim light like a tarnished mirror. "This is it," Lyra said softly. "The heart of the silence. This spring once sang the purest melodies, nourishing the entire woods with its joyful song. But it has forgotten." Elara knelt by the spring, peering into its depths. The water was clear, but somehow lacked vibrancy. It looked tired. She dipped her fingers into it. The water was cool, but it felt strangely flat, devoid of the energetic current she expected from a living spring. The air around the willow tree felt heavy, thick with unspoken grief. "How do we help it remember?" Elara asked, her voice barely a whisper. Lyra took out her wooden flute, its surface smooth and warm from her touch. "With our song, Elara, with the song of the whispering star channeled through our hearts and our voices, and through this." She held up the flute. "But it also needs your touch, your pure connection to the world's quiet places." Lyra began to play. The notes of the flute were not loud but clear and resonant, weaving a melody that was both ancient and new. It started simply, a gentle rising tune, like the first stirrings of dawn. As Lyra played, Elara felt a subtle vibration in the air, a response from the woods themselves. The moonstone shard in Lyra's satchel began to pulse in rhythm with the music, its light brightening. Then Elara remembered Lyra's words, carry its song to the silent places of the world. She closed her eyes, placing her hands on the bank beside the silent spring, imagining the moonstone's warmth spreading from her own heart, through her hands, into the very earth. She thought of the star, its distant, shimmering light, and imagined its song, not as a sound, but as a pure, joyful energy, flowing through her. She began to hum, a soft, wordless melody that blended with Lyra's flute. As Elara hummed, a miraculous transformation began. The still water of the spring began to ripple, not from a breeze, but from an inner awakening. Tiny bubbles, like miniature pearls, rose to the surface, bursting with a faint, silvery chime. The light within the spring brightened, reflecting the faint starlight from the moonstone shard. The willow tree, as if sighing a deep, cleansing breath, began to stir. Its drooping branches lifted slightly, and a faint, shimmering green light pulsed along its ancient bark. Lyra's flute played on, the melody growing richer, more complex, imbued with a deep sense of healing and renewal. Elara felt the energy of the spring responding, flowing up through her hands, invigorating her. She opened her eyes. The faded wildflowers around the spring were beginning to regain their color, their petals unfurling, turning towards the light. A small furry creature, which had been hiding behind a root, tentatively emerged, its luminous eyes now wide with wonder. Then, the spring began to sing. It wasn't a sound from the water itself, but a harmonious resonance that filled the clearing. It was the sound of pure, flowing joy, a crystal-clear melody that rose and intertwined with Lyra's flute and Elara's humming. The air shimmered, and the light filtering through the leaves turned a vibrant, hopeful green. Lyra smiled, her eyes shining. She continued to play, allowing the spring's renewed song to join hers. Elara felt a profound sense of peace and accomplishment. The silence had been broken, replaced by a beautiful chorus. The trees in the clearing seemed to stretch and sigh contentedly, their leaves rustling with a newfound vigor. The bird's song, which had been so hesitant, returned, a joyful celebration joining the music of the spring and the flute. They stayed there for a long while, simply listening, letting the rejuvenated energy of the whispering woods wash over them. When Lyra finally lowered her flute, and Elara lifted her hands from the earth, the spring continued its gentle, melodious hum. The light in the clearing remained bright and warm, and the entire woods felt lighter, as if a great weight had been lifted. "It remembered," Elara whispered, a smile spreading across her face. "It did," Lyra agreed, gently stroking the willow's bark. And now, its song was spread throughout the entire forest, reminding every leaf and every creature of their own forgotten melodies. With light hearts and renewed purpose, they continued their journey, guided by the now brighter pulse of the moonstone shard. The whispering woods, as they departed, no longer felt heavy. The path ahead was illuminated by dancing motes of starlight, and the air was filled with a symphony of revitalized life. Their path led them out of the whispering woods and into a landscape that sloped gently downwards. The trees thinned, giving way to rolling hills covered in a carpet of emerald grass, dotted with clusters of vibrant purple heather. In the distance, Elara could hear a new sound, a soft, constant murmur that grew steadily louder with each step. It was the sound of flowing water, and as they crested the last hill, a breathtaking sight unfolded before them. Before them lay the shimmering river, a ribbon of liquid silver winding its way through the landscape. Its surface caught the sunlight in 1,000 sparkling facets, reflecting the sky and the clouds in a dizzying display. Yet, despite its apparent beauty, Lyra paused, her brow furrowed. "This river," she said, her voice soft, "is not as joyful as it seems. Its shimmer is a veil, Elara. Can you feel its true song?" Elara concentrated, closing her eyes. She heard the rush of water, the gentle lapping against the banks, the whisper of the current. But beneath it all, there was a faint, almost imperceptible dissonance. It was like a magnificent instrument playing a powerful tune, but one of its strings was slightly out of tune, creating a subtle ache. The moonstone shard in Lyra's satchel pulsed with a steady, almost rhythmic beat, urging them towards the river's edge. As they drew closer, Elara noticed other things. The reeds along the bank, though green, lacked the vibrant, energetic sway she expected. The fish that occasionally leapt from the water seemed to do so with a weary grace. The air above the river, while cool, felt heavy, as if burdened by a secret. The shimmering river was silent, not because it couldn't make a sound, but because its true, deep song was stifled. They found a quiet spot beneath a gnarled old weeping willow, a different one from the forest, but equally ancient, whose branches dipped into the river. Lyra carefully removed the moonstone shard from her satchel. It glowed now with a soft, steady light, its warmth radiating outwards. "The river's true song is trapped," Lyra explained. "Long ago, a mischievous river sprite, named Rippledwist, became fascinated by the river's melody. He loved it so much that he tried to bottle it, to keep its sweetest notes for himself. But a river's song cannot be contained. It must flow freely, or it loses its power. Rippledwist, meaning no harm, inadvertently caused the river's deep sadness." Ilara looked out at the shimmering surface. "So, we need to release its song." "Precisely," Lyra nodded. "But Rippledwist is a shy creature, and he's forgotten how to give back what he took. We must coax him, and remind him of the beauty of a river's free song." As if on cue, a faint shimmer appeared on the water's surface near the willow, coalescing into a small, translucent figure. It was indeed a river sprite, no bigger than Ilara's hand, with skin like wet moss and eyes like polished pebbles. He had delicate, fin-like ears and a crown of tiny water lilies. He clutched a miniature, shimmering bottle to his chest, from which a faint, muffled hum emanated. Rippledwist eyed them warily, his pebble eyes darting from Lyra to Ilara, then to the glowing moonstone shard. He seemed afraid, and a little guilty. "Hello, Rippledwist," Lyra said softly, her voice gentle and soothing. "We've come a long way, guided by the whispering star. We've heard the river's sorrow, and we know you hold its song." Rippledwist trembled, clutching the bottle tighter. He let out a series of high-pitched chirps and clicks, a language of water and wind. Ilara instinctively understood a fragment of it. "Mine, my treasure. Beautiful." "He thinks he's protecting it," Ilara murmured to Lyra. "He doesn't understand that he's hurting it." Lyra nodded. He needs to remember the joy of sharing. Ilara, play for him. Let him hear the true song, the one that flows freely from the earth and the stars." Ilara took out her own small, carved wooden whistle, which Lyra had given her as a gift. It was simple, but its notes were clear and sweet. She closed her eyes, focusing on the moonstone's gentle thrum, on the memory of the whispering woods' renewed song, and on the quiet ache of the shimmering river. She began to play, a simple, flowing melody, like water trickling over smooth stones, gradually building into a deeper, more resonant tune that echoed the river's true, unburdened spirit. As Ilara played, the moonstone shard pulsed brighter, casting a soft, blue-white light over the scene. Rippledwist, initially wary, slowly began to relax. His fin-like ears twitched, listening intently. The muffled hum from the bottle he clutched seemed to resonate with Ilara's whistle, yearning to break free. Lyra, seeing the sprite's hesitation, added her own voice, a soft, wordless hum that wove itself into Ilara's melody. It was a soothing sound, full of reassurance and gentle encouragement. She then reached out, not to take the bottle, but to dip her fingers into the river water, letting the current swirl around them. "Rippledwist," Lyra said, her voice carrying over the music. "The river's song is meant to dance with the wind, to sing to the fish, to nourish the trees along its banks. It is not a song to be kept, but a song to be shared. Feel its joy, little one, when it flows free. Feel its joy, little one." As Lyra spoke, Ilara's music swelled. She imagined the river's song, held captive, struggling to breathe, and then imagined it breaking free, rushing through the landscape bringing life and vitality. She infused her music with that image, with a feeling of liberation and boundless joy. Slowly, hesitantly, Rippledwist raised the shimmering bottle. The muffled hum within it grew louder, more insistent. His pebble eyes, which had been clouded with fear, now held a flicker of understanding, a dawning realization. With a tiny, almost imperceptible sigh, he uncorked the bottle. A shimmering stream of light, like liquid starlight, flowed from the bottle and poured into the river. It was not a single note, but a cascade of pure, resonant sound, a melody that was ancient and powerful, vibrant and full of life. As the river's true song rejoined its waters, the entire shimmering river seemed to awaken. The shimmering veil on its surface vanished, replaced by a deep clear transparency that revealed the smooth, multicolored stones of its bed. The reeds along the bank straightened, their greens deepening, swaying gracefully in time with the invigorated current. Fish leaped from the water, their scales glittering, their movements full of joyful energy. The air above the river sparkled, filled with the harmonious chorus of the flowing water. Ripple Twist, no longer clutching an empty bottle, looked at the river with wide, astonished eyes. He saw the change, felt the surge of renewed life, and understood. A wide, delighted grin spread across his face, and he began to dance on the water's surface, tiny splashes echoing the river's joyous song. He chirped happily, a sound of pure delight and gratitude. Elara and Lyra continued to play and hum for a little longer, allowing the river's full, vibrant song to settle into the landscape. The moonstone shard hummed contentedly, its mission here complete. The shimmering river was silent no more. Its voice was a magnificent, flowing symphony, carrying life and magic wherever it went. "Thank you, Elara," Lyra said, her eyes twinkling. "You truly helped Rippledwist remember the joy of generosity." Rippledwist, after a final happy dance, gave them a little bow, and vanished back into the depths of the river, leaving behind only the faintest ripple, and the lingering scent of fresh water. With the river singing its heart out, they knew it was time to move on. The moonstone shard in Lyra's satchel had shifted its warmth, now pulsing with a steady directional pull that guided them away from the river, towards a distant, misty range of hills. The sun was beginning its slow descent, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, promising a cool, peaceful evening. They found a sheltered spot amidst a cluster of ancient, wind-sculpted boulders, their surfaces smooth and worn like the bones of the earth. Lyra conjured a small, smokeless fire, with a flick of her wrist and a quiet word, its flames casting dancing shadows. They shared a simple meal, the bread and fruit tasting sweeter after their day's work. The sound of the rejuvenated shimmering river, though distant, was a comforting lullaby, a testament to the magic they had helped bring back into the world. As darkness fully embraced the land, the stars began to pepper the inky sky, each one a tiny pinprick of light. Above them, the whispering star shone with a gentle, knowing brilliance, its light seeming to focus directly on their small camp. Elara felt its presence like a soft hand on her heart, guiding her, encouraging her. "Tomorrow," Lyra said softly, gazing at the stars, "we journey to the ancient meadow. It is a place where time itself seems to slow, where the oldest memories of the world sleep beneath the earth. Its silence is not of sorrow or suppression, but of deep, profound slumber. And it waits for the song to awaken its dreams." Elara felt a thrill of anticipation. Each place had its own kind of silence, its own story waiting to be unfurled. She was learning that the song of the whispering star wasn't just a melody. It was understanding, empathy, and the courage to listen where others had forgotten. The world was vast and full of sleeping magic, and she, with Lyra by her side, was ready to help it awaken. She leaned her head on Lyra's shoulder, watching the stars, her heart full of wonder. The journey was far from over, and the boundless magic of the world beckoned, promising new discoveries and new songs to share. The warmth of the moonstone shard, now resting safely in Lyra's satchel, seemed to radiate a quiet anticipation, a promise of the slumbering wonders that awaited them in the heart of the ancient meadow. The night was a canvas of endless stars, and their adventure, a brushstroke of light on its surface. As the last whisper of the whisper-wind peaks faded behind them, giving way to the gentle hum of the plains, Lyra hummed a soft lullaby, her fingers idly tracing the smooth, cool surface of the moonstone shard through the satchel's fabric. Elara, nestled against her, had finally drifted into a peaceful sleep, her dreams no doubt filled with the glittering magic they had witnessed. Pip, curled in a tiny ball near Elara's ear, pulsed with a dim, comforting glow. The hours flowed like a river of starlight, carrying them onward. Dawn painted the eastern sky in hues of rose and gold, chasing away the indigo depths of night. Lyra watched as the world awoke, the dew-kissed grass shimmering like a million tiny diamonds. Birds began their cheerful chorus, and the air grew crisp with the scent of pine and damp earth. Elara stirred, blinking awake with a yawn that stretched her small face. "Are we there yet, Lyra?" she murmured, her voice thick with sleep. Lyra smiled. "Not quite, little one, but we are closer," See how the light touches the horizon? That's the direction of the ancient meadow. Their path wound through rolling hills, past whispering streams that babbled tales of old, and beneath ancient trees whose gnarled branches seemed to hold the very memories of time. The landscape gradually shifted, growing wilder, more untamed. The air itself began to feel different, thicker, almost palpable with an unseen energy. Pip, usually a beacon of steady light, began to flicker with an excited, erratic pulse, darting ahead then back to Lyra's shoulder. Pepe is excited, Ilara observed, giggling as the glowworm chased a floating dandelion seed. Does he know something we don't? Perhaps he feels the magic growing stronger, Lyra suggested. The ancient meadow is said to be one of the oldest places in the world, where the veil between realms is thin. Their journey led them to the edge of the sunken woods, a forest so ancient its trees formed a canopy so dense that perpetual twilight reigned beneath. The air here was cool and still, scented with moss and rich soil. Eerie silence hung heavy, broken only by the rustle of their footsteps on a carpet of fallen leaves. Shadows danced and stretched, playing tricks on the eye, making branches seem to writhe like serpents and roots twist into gnarled faces. Ilara clutched Lyra's hand tighter. It's quiet here, she whispered, her eyes wide. It is, Lyra agreed, her hand instinctively going to her lute. But quiet doesn't always mean empty. Sometimes it means listening. She began to pluck a soft, lilting melody, a tune that spoke of courage and clarity. As the notes drifted through the trees, the oppressive stillness seemed to lessen. The dancing shadows softened, and the imagined faces in the wood retreated. The forest, though still ancient and mysterious, no longer felt menacing, but rather like a wise, old guardian watching their passage. Deeper they delved, following faint animal tracks and the intuitive pull of the moonstone shard, which now pulsed with a gentle inner light within Lyra's satchel. They navigated around colossal, moss-covered boulders that looked like sleeping giants, and over root systems as thick as a grown person's waist. Lyra told Ilara stories of the forest sprites who painted the autumn leaves, and the sleepy bears who dreamed of honeyed adventures in winter. Ilara's fear transformed into fascination, her eyes sparkling with curiosity as she searched for tiny, glowing mushrooms and listened for the whispers of unseen creatures. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of dappled light and emerald green, they reached a clearing. But it wasn't the ancient meadow. Instead, they stood at the precipice of the glimmering gorge. A vast chasm sliced through the earth, its depths lost in a swirling mist. But it was not dark. Instead, the walls of the gorge, from top to bottom, sparkled with countless embedded crystals, amethyst, quartz, emerald, sapphire, catching the filtered sunlight and scattering it into a dazzling kaleidoscopic display. A shimmering, ethereal bridge, woven from threads of pure light, arced gracefully across the expanse, humming with a low, resonant energy. "Oh, Lyra," Ilara gasped, her jaw dropping. Pip zipped out of the satchel, doing joyous loops in front of the bridge. Lyra, too, was mesmerized. The bridge felt inviting, yet impossibly fragile. "It's a bridge of pure magic," she murmured, awe in her voice. "It will hold us." Taking Ilara's hand, Lyra stepped onto the shimmering pathway. With each step, the light beneath their feet pulsed, responding to their presence. Below, the mist swirled, and the distant sound of rushing water echoed from the gorge's unseen bottom. Ilara, initially hesitant, soon found her courage, skipping lightly and pointing at the rainbows that danced in the mist. "Look, Lyra, a rainbow river." The bridge led them to a narrow path on the other side, which ascended sharply. As they climbed, the trees thinned, and the air grew lighter, infused with a new, sweet scent, like wildflowers and rain. They emerged from the last of the trees, onto a vast, open expanse. Before them lay a sight that stole their breath and seemed to hush the very wind. This was the ancient meadow. It wasn't a riot of color, nor a desolate wasteland. Instead, it was a place of profound, serene beauty, bathed in an otherworldly luminescence. The grass, impossibly green and soft, stretched to the distant horizon, dotted with wildflowers that glowed with a faint inner light. Ancient, gnarled trees, unlike any Lyra had ever seen, stood scattered like patient sentinels, their leaves of vibrant, shimmering silver. In the very center of the meadow, a colossal, smooth-faced stone stood, tall as a small mountain, radiating a gentle pearlescent glow. It was not carved, but seemed to have grown from the earth itself, a silent monument to ages past. The moonstone shard in Lyra's satchel thrummed with such intensity now that she could feel its warmth through the thick fabric. Pip, nearly beside himself with excitement, zipped around the air, leaving trails of golden light. "It's beautiful," Elara whispered, her voice barely audible. She let go of Lyra's hand and slowly walked forward, her steps light, as if afraid to disturb the profound peace of the place. Lyra followed, her gaze fixed on the central stone. It was here, she knew, that the slumbering wonders awaited. The air was thick with ancient magic, a quiet, powerful presence that settled deep in her bones. She could feel the earth beneath her feet humming with a forgotten song, a melody waiting to be remembered. As they drew closer to the great stone, Lyra noticed faint, intricate patterns etched into its surface, swirls and lines that seemed to echo the very constellations above. They were not carvings, but rather lines of energy, faintly pulsating. At the base of the stone, nestled amidst emerald moss, was a shallow indentation, perfectly shaped to cradle a small, smooth object. Lyra's heart beat faster. She knew, with an instinct deeper than thought, what belonged there. Carefully, she unfastened her satchel and retrieved the moonstone shard. It pulsed in her hand, radiating a soft, cool light that seemed to resonate with the great stone. "What are you doing, Lyra?" Elara asked, her voice hushed with anticipation. "I believe this is where our journey truly begins," Lyra replied, her voice trembling slightly with awe. She knelt before the great stone, Elara mirroring her movements. With reverence, she placed the moonstone shard into the indentation. The moment the shard settled into its resting place, a ripple of energy pulsed outward from the great stone. The pearlescent glow intensified, becoming brighter, more vibrant. The intricate patterns etched on its surface flared with a brilliant silver light, like lightning frozen in stone. The ground beneath them began to vibrate, a deep, resonant hum that thrummed through Lyra's entire being. The ancient trees around them responded. Their shimmering silver leaves began to rustle, not with wind, but with an internal energy, creating a sound like 1,000 tiny bells chiming in harmony. The glowing wildflowers pulsed in unison, their light brightening and dimming in a slow, rhythmic dance. Elara gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Pip, instead of zipping, hovered motionless in the air, his light a steady, brilliant gold. Lyra felt an irresistible urge to play. Her fingers found the strings of her lute, her heart dictating a melody she had never heard, yet knew intimately. It was a song of awakening, of ancient slumber stirring, of light returning to the world. The notes flowed from her lute, pure and clear, intertwining with the humming of the stone and the chiming of the silver leaves. As Lyra's song filled the meadow, the great stone began to change. The silver light emanating from its patterns intensified further, until it was almost blinding. Then, with a slow, majestic grace, the stone began to open. Not like a door, but as if its very substance was unfolding, petal by colossal petal. From within the opening stone, a pure golden light erupted, soaring upwards, touching the very heavens. It wasn't harsh, but soft and warm, like liquid sunshine. And within that golden light, forms began to coalesce. They weren't creatures of flesh and blood, but beings of pure, shimmering energy, their forms reminiscent of ancient guardians. Figures made of swirling starlight and iridescent mist, with gentle, knowing eyes that seemed to hold the wisdom of ages. They drifted out from the heart of the stone, ethereal and majestic, their presence filling the meadow with an overwhelming sense of peace and profound magic. These were the Lumina, the ancient guardians of the meadow, who had slumbered for millennia, waiting for the moonstone's light to reawaken them. They were the keepers of the world's quiet magic, the weavers of dreams, and the whisperers of forgotten truths. As they emerged, the golden light expanded, washing over the entire meadow, making the grass glow. The flowers burst into brighter luminescence, and the silver leaves of the trees sparkle like constellations. One of the Lumina, taller and more luminous than the others, drifted towards Lyra and Elara. Its form shifted and flowed, like a living nebula, but its essence was gentle and welcoming. A voice, clear and resonant as a bell, yet as soft as a breeze, echoed not in their ears, but directly in their hearts. The light returns, the song is heard, the heart of the world awakens. Elara, far from being afraid, reached out a tentative hand towards the shimmering being. "Are you an angel?" she whispered, her eyes wide with wonder. The lumina pulsed with a soft, warm light, a gesture that felt like a smile. "They are the echoes of starlight, the guardians of the dreams woven into the fabric of this land. You, seeker of melodies, and you, child of pure heart, have brought the harmony needed to stir us from our long slumber." Lyra, her fingers still on her lute strings, felt a rush of understanding. The world's magic wasn't just about grand spells or powerful enchantments. It was about balance, about connection, about the simple, profound harmony of existence. The moonstone shard, a piece of ancient celestial power, had been the key, but her song, a vibration of her own pure intention and spirit, had been the melody that unlocked it. The lumina continued, its voice a gentle hum in their souls. "For too long, the quiet magic of the world has dimmed, forgotten by many. But with our awakening, the threads of wonder shall be rewoven. Dreams will be brighter, inspiration will flow, and the silent whispers of the earth will be heard once more." As the lumina spoke, Lyra noticed something remarkable. The air around them began to shimmer, not just with light, but with tiny, iridescent motes of energy. These motes, like luminous dust, drifted gently over the meadow, touching the flowers, the grass, the trees, and even Lyra and Elara. Where they landed, a spark of new life seemed to ignite. A sleepy butterfly fluttered its wings with renewed vigor. A tiny sapling near the great stone unfurled a new, vibrant leaf. This was the slumbering wonder, not a single object or creature, but the very essence of the world's subtle magic, now flowing freely once more. The lumina were not just awakened, they were now radiating this revitalized magic back into the world. Elara laughed, a sound as bright and clear as the newly awakened meadow. The iridescent motes danced around her, and Lyra noticed a faint, ethereal glow surrounding Elara herself, a reflection of the magic she was absorbing. It was subtle, but Lyra knew it was there, a seed of magic within the child, nurtured by wonder. Lyra felt compelled to play again, a different song this time. A song of gratitude, of renewal, of the boundless joy of discovery. Her melody intertwined with the gentle hum of the lumina, the chiming of the silver leaves, and the soft rhythmic pulse of the moonstone shard, now glowing steadily within the heart of the great stone. It was a symphony of awakening, a chorus sung by the world itself. And then, a truly magical thing happened. Elara, who had only ever hummed along to Lyra's tunes, found her voice. A clear, sweet note, pure as a mountain spring, rose from her lips, joining Lyra's melody. It wasn't a practiced sound, but an intuitive, joyful expression of the magic she felt. Her voice, small but resonant, blended perfectly with Lyra's lute, adding a layer of innocence and unbridled wonder to the ancient song. Pip, darting through the air, glowed with delight, adding his own silent, sparkling counterpoint. Together, the minstrel, the child, and the glowworm, along with the ancient guardians, sang the meadow's song, a melody that resonated through the very fabric of the world, announcing the return of its slumbering magic. It was a moment suspended in time, perfect and profound. As the sun began its slow descent, painting the sky in fiery oranges and gentle purples, the lumina began to recede, their forms blending back into the golden light. "Go forth!" The resonant voice echoed one last time, and carry the song of wonder. Let it be heard in every corner, so that the quiet magic may never dim again. The great stone, still glowing with the moonstone's steady light, slowly began to fold back in on itself, gently cradling the shard within. The silver leaves still chimed softly, and the wildflowers continued their luminous dance, but the overwhelming surge of energy had settled into a steady, peaceful hum. Lyra gently took Elara's hand. "It's time to go home, little one," she said, her voice filled with a quiet contentment that settled deep in her soul. The journey back was different. The sunken woods, though still ancient, felt less mysterious, and more like a benevolent elder, its shadows now friendly and inviting. The glimmering gorge's bridge pulsed with a warmer, more vibrant light, as if infused with the meadow's renewed magic. Every stream they passed seemed to sing a clearer tune, every bird's song held a richer melody. The world felt brighter, more alive, as if a thin veil had been lifted, revealing its true, magical essence. Ilara chatted excitedly the entire way, recounting every detail of the lumina and the glowing dust. "And I sang, Lyra. I really sang," she exclaimed, her eyes shining. "You did, Ilara," Lyra confirmed, a proud smile on her face. "You have a beautiful voice, and a heart full of magic." Lyra knew that Ilara's journey of discovery had only just begun. The seed of magic within her had been watered, and now it would surely grow. When they finally arrived back at Ilara's village, the moon was high, casting long silvery shadows. Ilara's parents rushed out, their faces etched with worry that quickly turned to relief. They embraced their daughter who, despite her weariness, bubbled over with tales of glittering bridges, singing trees, and luminous guardians. Lyra stayed with them for a few days, sharing simpler stories, playing soothing melodies, and allowing Ilara to recount the grand adventure in her own excited way. The villagers, at first skeptical, found themselves captivated by Ilara's earnestness and the newfound sparkle in her eyes. And Lyra's music, always enchanting, now carried a subtle, undeniable resonance of the ancient meadow, inspiring dreams and lifting spirits. Before Lyra continued on her journey, she knelt before Ilara. "Keep singing, little one," she said, pressing a small, smooth river stone, imbued with a touch of the meadow's quiet magic, into Ilara's hand. "Listen to the world, and let its magic fill your heart. Your voice, your wonder, they are precious gifts." Ilara hugged Lyra tightly. "Will you come back, Lyra? Will you sing with me again?" "Perhaps," Lyra smiled, adjusting her lute on her back. "The world is wide, and there are many songs to find. But wherever I go, a part of your song will travel with me, and a part of mine with you. Remember the lumina, and always remember the magic within you." As Lyra walked away, her silhouette fading into the starlit path, she looked back one last time. Ilara stood by her cottage door, holding the river stone, a faint, contented hum on her lips. Lyra knew her journey had changed the world, even if subtly, by reawakening a forgotten harmony. And in turn, the world had changed her, deepening her understanding of magic, music, and the profound connection between a seeker's heart and the boundless wonders that await. She took a deep breath, the crisp night air carrying the faint, sweet scent of distant wildflowers. The moonstone shard was back in the great stone, but its light was now within her, a guiding star in her heart. She had helped awaken the slumbering wonders, and in doing so, had awakened new wonders within herself. The path ahead was still long, filled with unknown adventures and untold songs. But Lyra's ready. She was Lyra, the minstrel of magic, and her music would always find its way to the heart of the world. And as you close your eyes, little one, imagine that meadow, bathed in golden light, and listen closely. Can you hear the soft, ancient hum? Can you feel the gentle magic stirring? Perhaps even now, a tiny iridescent mote of wonder is drifting towards your own dreams, ready to spark a new adventure within your sleep. Sleep well, and may your dreams be filled with the songs of a truly magical world.